Hey guys, Pat, Jackie, and Sean here from Real Wasted. We're doing a Thirst Impressions video here for Avengers. Normally we do this like immediately after we see the movie, but we saw it at different times, so we're just going to kind of talk about it now. This is the first time we're talking about it since we all saw it, though, so it's kind of fits.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, and I think I'm really interested in this because I think we have very different opinions on the movie to begin with. So
we do.
All right. So,
and I think I just need to say there are spoilers coming.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you have not seen the movie, shut the video off. I don't want to see an angry comment that we ruined the movie for you. That's it. That's your warning.
Yeah, this isn't going to be one of those videos where it's like we dance around the issues. No, we're going to talk about shit, and Thanos kills a lot of people. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
Gamora dies! Ha! You didn't turn the video off!
Vision gets his head ripped apart!
Ha ha! Enjoy the movie now, sucker!
It's your own damn fault. Anyway, so Avengers Infinity War. They have built this up as the be-all, end-all for the Avengers so far. It is the third Avengers movie. It is, I believe, this is the celebration of 10 years of Marvel movies, which is kind of amazing to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been 10 years since Iron Man came out. They have started with that movie, the very end, saying, we're going to start the Avengers Initiative. And then we are up to Thanos here. Which, if anybody is a comic book fan, Thanos is the big bad of the Marvel Universe. If not him, maybe Galactus, but they already fucked that up with the Fantastic Four movies. So, Thanos is it.
Let's start with Thanos, actually,
Yeah.
because to me, as a villain, he delivered and then some.
Finally. Finally, we have a Marvel villain who has a plan and accomplishes it.
Yeah.
And not a portal.
Yes! Not with a portal to the goddamn sky. It is an actual... I mean, like, the gauntlet itself is a MacGuffin, and the whole movie revolves around it, but my god, it's not a portal to the sky. They didn't do it.
Well, forgive the fact that he looks like Homer Simpson fucked Bruce Willis.
And then fell into a batch of friggin' like blueberry pies. But
we'll forgive that.
yeah, it doesn't matter because here's the thing: Thanos as a character looks dumb. Thanos on screen looks as much of an idiot as you'd believe him to look. The character itself is so good, and
Josh Brolin.
so well done.
So badass.
Thank God they got Josh Brolin to do this because he brought a lot to this just with the voice.
Yeah.
I know that there was a lot of After Effects, there was a lot of CGI, there was another guy who basically played Thanos for him, and he basically supplied the voice and the mocap. But Josh Brolin brought so much pathos to this character that was desperately needed.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he does with Cable now.
Yeah. I think him as Cable would be pretty good, but him in this universe fits so well because you needed somebody who was imposing to play Thanos. You needed somebody who you could believe was going to be like, basically like the angry god of the Marvel Universe. And that's what Thanos is in this. They built him up as a good character. They gave him a decent enough half backstory to kind of accomplish what they were doing for everything. And the character on screen, every time he is on screen, is a threat. There is not a moment where he is not taken seriously. And that's important. Every other Marvel movie has a moment where all the villains just get like thrown to the side or get beaten in a dance-off or something like that. This one, even when he's asleep and basically like at his lowest point, it's still a struggle to defeat him. And that's important.
Yeah. And his weakness is very, very believable.
Yes.
The one time that the character breaks, which we will spoil, is when Gamora dies. I truly believed it, and it wasn't like it was unmotivated.
Yeah. The whole character of Thanos kind of plays into the whole idea of the story, because first of all, you have a lot to go on with this movie. And you have a lot to live up to in general. So they needed to deliver with this, and they really... I think they did. I think everything kind of fits together as well as possible. With all the different stories that they had going into this, this was as good of a combination as we probably could have hoped for.
I'm going to step back and let Sean take this one.
Yeah, I didn't like it. And I'll tell you something. When I think back about 10 years, you know, it's a long time. You really you invest yourself in going to the movies and watching films multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I've seen all of them multiple times. The only one I think I didn't see more than once was the Hulk film, which you really only have to see one time.
Yeah.
And there's so many interwoven plot lines and plot points, and you stay after the credits. They're never together. They're never together in this movie. You never see all of them in one place at the same time. This movie could have been directed by Greg Nicotero. And by that I mean this. The one problem, dog, I am on a rant. The one thing that drives me absolutely insane about The Walking Dead is that they have started to rest on following a small group of characters for so long that you forget that the other characters are involved. You have 3 different stories going on at the same time, which I understand with so many different characters. It's very easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
But I felt that it was at times hard to follow, and I was taken out of it. So I have no problem with Thanos being victorious.
Yeah.
I like that, actually. And I understand that they're using this as a jumping off point for Captain Marvel.
Kind
But
of.
I felt... No, it's entirely a jumping off point for Captain Marvel.
No, Captain Marvel's going to play a part in it. It's a jumping off point for a 4th Avenger movie.
But I shouldn't have to watch 10 years worth of movies and feel that I just watched a 10-year trailer for another movie. That's my problem with this.
My biggest problem with this movie was not that everything felt like it was a trailer for another movie. My biggest problem with this was that although they combined as much as they possibly could, some characters were left in the dust. I don't have a problem with how they played out the movie, because the directors are human. There's only so much you can do when you throw, no exaggeration here, a dozen movies at them and go, make all of them fit. And they give you this. And yes, if you look at it in terms of how the movies progress, it is a lead into another movie, because it's a 2-parter. Just like everything else. Do you know, a lot of people make this comparison, and this will probably not sway you, but it kind of explains it. This is the Marvel Universe's Empire Strikes Back. Where, yes, a lot of shit went down. Yes, there is a ton of stuff unresolved. And yes, it left on one hell of a downer, which we'll get into. But the idea behind this movie was not to basically go, that's it, fuckers, wait another year. It was to go, every character meeting up at one point, as much as they could, still wasn't enough to face this threat. The idea was to build up Thanos as the biggest threat that the entire universe has seen. And you know what? They did it.
I agree with people in that, in terms of the way the film ends, and maybe the general theme around the movie, I understand and sort of agree with where people make the comparison to Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back, for all intents and purposes, is a bridge film, but it's probably the best bridge film I've ever seen, because I felt that it was a completed movie. This, I felt, left too many questions, personally for me.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't Empire Strike Back end with a bunch of main characters staring off into the distance going, what are we gonna do now?
It does. And this ends very similarly, but I just felt like there were so many loose ends and so many question marks that were left unanswered. I just feel like it didn't tie up quite as much as Empire did. I mean, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because you like Star Wars, you like Marvel.
Yeah.
What was a better, in terms of an all-around film, what do you think was better? Do you think Empire was better, or do you think this was better?
I think Empire was better because you only had one other movie to lead up to that. is a bridge film of 3 movies. This is a bridge film of a dozen, leading up to the second part of a conclusion to that dozen. And that might not even be the conclusion. There are 5 Marvel movies in between this Avengers and the next one.
I know.
Including like Venom and Captain Marvel, and they just announced that there was going to be one for like Black Cat was apparently going to have one.
And there's a ton of untitled ones.
And there's a bunch of
They have
untitled
dates,
ones.
but no information.
They are planning an entire another phase after Avengers 4, which just goes to show, like, yeah, it's a bridge film that does not answer a lot of questions. It doesn't raise any more than it doesn't answer, though. You go into this with the same questions, but the idea behind it is that the movie wasn't dissolved to solve it. It was dissolved to finally bring everything together. And then now that everything is together, the 4th movie can conclude whatever they're building for in this. And maybe that's not even the case. Maybe they're going to do like... Maybe they're going to have Thanos just go like, bye fuckers, and just disappear. And then there's Avengers 5 to look forward to. The idea behind comic books is that they're never ending. They are always continuing. After somebody dies or after somebody continues, there's always another threat. If this ended in a solid note, I would have hated it. I would have absolutely hated if Thanos was built up for 5 movies, and the first full movie that he is in, where he plays more than a bit character, he's killed off at the end of it, I would have flipped my chair. Even if it was one of those built-in recliner ones, I would have found a way, I would have gotten a crowbar, I would have flipped that shit. The idea behind it is that it's always evolving and it's always going. These movies completely changed superhero movies. In terms of Superman, the movie was like...
You're talking about the Donner.
I'm talking about the Donner. I'm talking about any Superman movie, really, but the Donner movies especially. Donner Superman was just built like, let's just do a Superman movie. And let's try and wrap it up at once. The original Batman movies, they didn't plan on that to be a 4 or 5 or 6 person series. They just were just like, put Batman on screen. The first movie in the Marvel universe says, we're doing the fucking Avengers. Soon. Look forward to that. This whole series is ongoing. So to say that it didn't wrap everything up is kind of missing the point. As a movie itself, it's pretty good.
I got nothing else.
I know your biggest beef was that you felt like there was a disconnect with the characters, and I agree with you to a point that it did feel a little scattered and all over the place. The only thing is, I really can't imagine another way to do this movie. I mean, you likened it to Walking Dead. That's a question of they don't have a big enough budget to pay all of those name actors to be in the same scenes. This is a huge Hollywood movie, and Disney's got the money to pay them all. So I don't think it's an issue of that. I just think it's more of an issue of, and it's kind of like what I said about the first Avengers, is that yes, they brought them all together, but they've never really fought as a team. You don't have every single Avenger fighting together. It's more individuals fighting for the same cause, but they're not put together until this movie when they were actually up against Thanos. This is the first time we've seen that. So as far as this goes, I really don't think that they could have done it any differently, because, you know, it was like a little scavenger hunt where they all had to split up and try and thwart him from finding the Infinity Stones. They had to go and hop to different planets, which, by the way, one of the things that I loved most about this movie was the visuals that they created. I think the different planets, the feel that they gave each one, even though some of them were destroyed, I thought that was really, really cool. I thought this was the most, you know, visually stunning Marvel movie that we've seen. But yeah, I really don't think that there was a different way to do it, especially when the only thing that can beat Thanos, seemingly, is Thor's new weapon, the Stormbreaker. So half of his, or I would say 90% of his storyline was just going to get this one weapon. So, like, what else were you going to do with him? You know, he had to wait until the end, because if he got this halfway through the movie, he would have beaten Thanos he would have beaten Thanos midway through the movie, and then you'd have nothing else to go on. So for him, it worked that he was off on his own. I shouldn't say on his own. He was with Rabbit, and that was probably one of my favorite things as well. This was the funniest Avengers movie, I think.
I think it was pretty funny. I think Thor Ragnarok.
Ragnarok has everything
like
beat
crazy.
in terms of a comment. But see, the thing about Ragnarok was it was good about it was funny, but it was not a comedy. It was just funny enough.
I think it was a comedy. I think it took none of the characters that seriously.
I still felt like I was watching a superhero movie, though. Like
Well, yeah, that's the
one.
point. You're supposed to enjoy yourself when you watch a superhero movie. Oh my god. Okay. When I told my parents I was going to see this, my mom said, "Oh, one of my coworkers said that she was going to have her son's birthday party going to see this movie." And I was like, "How old is that son?" And they're like, "They're a kid." And I'm like, "Kids are going to walk out of this crying." And I was right. And I laughed.
There was one person that when we saw it, I said, the last time I saw a superhero movie where somebody literally stood up at the end and screamed, "This is bullshit," was Batman and Robin. And somebody actually, in our screening, stood up at the end, looked at the screen and screamed, "This is bullshit," and walked out of the theater without even seeing the post-credit scene.
That's sad. They missed the Captain Marvel logo. And that's pretty much it. Alright. I think we could talk about this for a lot longer, but I feel like we've talked about it for long enough. Before we leave, though, can we just nerd out on a couple of things that were really fun to watch in this movie?
Sure.
Yes, please.
First thing that comes to mind is Groot being the handle for Stormbreaker.
I like that.
That's brilliant. I like that.
And Groot is an angsty teenager.
Groot is an angsty teenager.
I
It's
was
fun.
liking that.
The dialogue between all the characters who never met before, I thought was fantastic. I thought nobody in this had bad chemistry together.
No, and I didn't. The one thing I feared, and I will give the movie credit for this, and I will say that when we did walk out of that movie yesterday, I said, I don't like it now, give me 3 viewings. You didn't like Guardians the first time you saw it. Now you like Guardians.
I did not hate Guardians as much as you seemingly hated this yesterday.
I didn't like it, but I'm willing to give it a few views. There might be things that I see second or third, because there is a lot going on. It's very hard for you to take in everything, and maybe that's part of my problem.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot to take in one viewing.
Yeah.
The one fear I had, which they actually handled very nicely, was nobody, I felt, tried to out-funny the other person to the point where it was just like, here we go again. It towed the line very well.
It had a really fantastic sense of humor about itself. Even surrounded by really horrible shit. There was so much crazy, depressing, dare I say, like, earth-shattering things going on in this movie. And they managed to make it still really funny in some instances, have really great character moments, have amazing interactions between everybody. I don't think there was one thing where I saw 2 people interact who hadn't before, and I was like, I don't need to see them on screen together again.
Right.
Like, it was great. You have the Wakandan warriors side by side with, like, Scarlet Witch and Black Widow all fighting together. That was fantastic. You have Black Panther and Captain America side by side fighting a bunch of people. That's awesome. Iron Man and Star-Lord and the rest of the Guardians. Iron Man with the Guardians of the Galaxy is fantastic. Thor side by side with Rocket Raccoon is amazing.
But my favorite was when Bucky picks up Rocket and just uses him as a second arm. That was fantastic.
How much for the gun? It's not for sale.
How much for the arm?
I'm gonna get that arm. Like, again, this was in the middle of a huge battle where they had basically insinuated, like, oh crap, we might not make it out of here. Like, they still had that sense of humor. One thing that I picked up that, like, I think my friend Reese picked up was that when Groot introduces himself, Steve Rogers goes, "I am Steve Rogers."
Yes.
And the thing that Reese said that was important, he was like, he didn't call himself Captain America. And it's like, that's true, because he didn't even have the insignia, like, on his logo.
Right,
He didn't have the shield. He basically was just Steve Rogers.
Well, for all intents and purposes, he's been disowned by the U.S. government.
He's been the nomad.
That also might have been part of the running joke, too, because when Doctor Strange and Spider-Man meet, Spider-Man was like, oh, we're using our fake names. I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was funny, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Tom Holland.
Spider-Man and Tony Stark. Again, Like,
Great.
more of a great thing that started in Spider-Man Homecoming. All of the scenes with Doctor Strange interacting with people.
Was excellent.
It was great.
That was a movie, and I'll hit on this quick. That was one that we had gotten in the mail as part of the Disney Movie Rewards, which we didn't get a chance to see in theaters. And we let it sit on the shelf for maybe 6 months before we put it on. I regret that. Doctor Strange is a great movie.
It's pretty.
It's so good. It is so much better than I thought it was going to be. Admittedly, because I don't know much about Doctor Strange, I didn't have a huge interest.
I know nothing about Doctor Strange. Like,
What
in
a
terms of
great
comics.
movie.
But I like him even more as an Avenger than I did in the standalone
Oh, absolutely.
movie. And
Yeah.
it's not to say that I disliked the standalone movie, but I think it just worked. It was so
They
great.
also brought along, like, the thing that I think is the most important about this movie is that they brought the best qualities of every single movie in for at least a little bit. Like with Doctor Strange, he used like the earth warping techniques when he was fighting Thanos, and Thanos countered it almost immediately. Like, I thought that was really cool. You had appearances from characters who had not been seen since maybe Captain America the First Avenger, like Red Skull.
Yeah,
that
nice.
was completely unexpected. That was great. You had characters who you didn't think were going to get a lot of character development. Like, I'm glad to see that Shuri still had a scene in this.
Yeah.
Like, from Black Panther. Shuri was my favorite character in Black Panther.
And she still had a funny line.
And she still had a lot of funny lines. She was still good. She knew what she was all about, and that was the best. But, I did have, like, one gripe about this. I know that all I've been doing is just singing this movie's praises. My one gripe is really a two-parter here. Vision was neutered. He did almost nothing important. And Gamora should have had more scenes of her being awesome before she got offed.
Yeah, considering we're never going to see her again.
Supposedly.
Supposedly.
Maybe, because, and we were talking a little bit about this before, is that there were a couple of throwaway lines in the heat of the battle that I think were missed, and I feel like you, especially upon second viewing, would appreciate more. I think, you remember how Doctor Strange says that he looked at all the possible outcomes and there's only one?
Yeah, it was like 14 million and change.
Yeah.
I think this is part of getting to that one outcome. I don't think they're all gone, but you'll notice whoever got stripped away, the people that are left are the core four.
Well, he wouldn't have given that stone away if he knew that was a losing venture.
Right, after everything that he did to protect it.
Yeah.
But right now, we're stripped down to the Hulk, Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man.
And Black Widow.
And Black Widow, who are pretty much
The
your
core
core
Iron
Avengers.
Man.
And I'm thinking Hawkeye's going to come back for the next one, maybe.
I think possibly.
And I
didn't
think
Rocket,
that's...
Rocket lived
Rocket's
too.
still alive,
And
but he's
Rocket
the
is
only
still
Guardian
alive.
that's
Yeah.
still alive.
Right.
We
But-
didn't talk about this. So, the end of this movie, which is pretty, like, I would say, over-encompassingly crazy, is that Thanos wins. He gets every Infinity Stone, snaps his fingers like he said he would, like, which I believe happens in the comics, and that's pretty much it. And everything he wants to happen happens, and what he wants to happen is that to balance the universe, to make sure that life can sustain itself, half of all living things in the universe are gone. Randomly, indiscriminately, which I don't really believe because Nebula's still alive,
Right.
but he believes it's fair. And that's an ending that I saw coming, but not like this.
Money on these people or these entities are actually being like used as slave labor on his planet as it's rebuilding.
I believe it.
That was my initial reaction. When they started to disappear, I'm like, they're not really dead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're really gone. I mean, to a child that
Oh,
saw
yeah.
this movie, I think you're going to have a lot of upset children that are
You are.
probably all getting trips to Disney World for their troubles.
So
So
many people
everybody wins.
cried in this movie, and it was like so many kids like walked out of this like weeping, and I was like, good. Like not so much for their suffering, but just for the fact that the movie took that risk and did not puss out on it. They really went in with it.
Did you tell them
Yeah.
about Santa while you were at it? Jesus.
No, they had enough on their plate already. I wasn't gonna double deck that shit. But still, like the idea of the whole movie, like kind of like taking that risk and not wimping out in the last 5 minutes and going like, unless this person shows up and then Thanos doesn't win. No, the movie ends with Thanos happy in what he did on his home planet, in his vision, just basking in it. And then
Right,
the
because
credits
Thor
hit.
was the person that did show up in the 11th hour,
Yeah.
but Thanos was still victorious.
It's funny because when we pulled into the parking lot yesterday, this was the conversation. Jackie said to me, "I'm so excited, I can't believe we're finally seeing Infinity Wars," to which my response was, "I can't believe to see who finally dies." Because it did pay off.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of knew that was going to happen, and that's what I was the most interested in, is who are they going to kill off?
But
Yeah.
Stark did not go dark. I should have made a bet with you on that.
I did not see that. I saw Stark dying.
When he stabbed him,
Yeah.
I thought for certain, like, oh, he's gone.
Yeah.
He's gone, man.
There were so many times where I was watching that where I just like nonchalantly just went, well, they're dead. And I was right, normally. When Loki made a dagger, I was like, well, Loki's dead. When Gamora, when they said, like, you have to sacrifice that what you love, I was like, well, Gamora's dead. I said immediately, like, well, Tony's dead. And then he lived.
Yeah.
And to kind of put insult to injury, he healed himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a way of just going like, dude, what the fuck did you do that for? I was fine. Like, come on.
Especially when they built it up that, he was talking to Pepper and the phone gets cut off. It's
Yeah.
like, you're going to find out Pepper's pregnant with their child, and it's like
Yeah.
going to really salt in the open wound, which could still happen in the next Avengers movie,
could.
of course.
Yeah.
Or Tony Stark could just live forever, and we're all wrong.
I think he's the immortal drunk. It's gonna happen. Alright, so last thoughts on the movie?
Regardless, I'm still looking forward to more.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to more. I told myself I probably didn't need to see this movie again. But I kind of want to see those battle scenes again. So I will end up seeing this.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the movie for a lot of the reasons that I had expressed. I'm willing to give it a few more views. I did say initially I think it needs a few more views. And if I watch it 3 more times and I still dislike it, you fuckers are still going to get my money anyway. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
So thank you guys for watching Thirst Impressions. We will keep trying to do these as often as possible for upcoming movies. If you guys got suggestions of things that you want us to cover on Real Wasted, please let us know. Use the hashtag Real Wasted or the hashtag Thirst Impressions. We will follow both. You can follow us all on Twitter. And thank you guys for watching.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.